Hello. All right, in this video, I'm going to answer questions that y'all have submitted, so let's just dig right in. Almeida asks, what do you do if you have a valuable and somewhat rare item to list, but someone has already listed the same item for a price that's way too low? Do you go ahead and list it at what is a more appropriate price that reflects previous sold listings, or do you wait until the underpriced item sells? That's a really good question. I just go ahead and list it right away. I mean, you could wait, but you might as well just list it at the price that you want, and that other one will probably sell first, and that's okay, but then once it sells, you'll be the one that's priced correctly. And you don't have to remind yourself to go out there and list it again. So I would just list it right away, but do it at the price that you want. Let's talk about Time asks, do you think creating your own website is worth it? I really hate being stuck having to comply with any given platform's rules, which are usually in place for the profit of the company rather than the protection of the consumer. So this gets asked quite a bit. I mean, the creating of the website is not the issue. Like, there's millions of tools out there that are going to create a website for you with a click of a button. The problem is marketing your website. Just creating the website is easy. Getting people to actually see the website, go to the website, make purchases from the website is a completely different story. And that's what you're paying on eBay or any platform. You're paying for access to customers without having to pay for any marketing. And so if you were to create your own website, you would need to market that website. And you would have to have both the expertise in marketing and a sizable budget for marketing to actually get it out for people to see. And so in that light, you know, the fees that you pay eBay or whoever else end up seeming pretty reasonable because you have access to like 140 million customers on eBay. And that's what you're paying for. That's what your fees are paying for, is access to that audience. I just guarantee you, if you create a website and try to market it and even reach like a small fraction of the size of audience that eBay has, you're going to be paying way more than you pay in fees. And so that's the way that I think about it. I don't think it's worth it. I think that, you know, it's not impossible, but you're going to have to make huge time and money investments to make it even close to reaching the size of audience that you get with these other platforms. Michael asks, do you prioritize garage sales by any preferred location attributes? For instance, do you tend to find better items at older neighborhoods versus newer or something like that? Usually my priority is distance from me and also like density. So I'm going to go places where there's a lot of garage sales. And in my area, I just know where there's going to be garage sales. There's a few like main thoroughfares where there's just good to go and branch out from there because I know they're going to be there. But I do like tend to avoid very new neighborhoods, like new build neighborhoods. Typically, when I go to those types of neighborhoods, the inventory is just like baby clothes or like cheap Hobby Lobby stuff. So I tend to avoid those. I prefer older neighborhoods, but really I prioritize garage sales based on distance to me and density of the amount of garage sales out there. Kevin says, I really enjoy your content. It's so helpful. Well, thank you. My question is about using the 250 free monthly listings versus getting an eBay store. During the summer, I found myself close to running out of these listings. However, I was able to stay within the 250 listings limit. Should I keep using these free listings, or would I be better off to get a store? So Kevin, I get this question quite a bit. Really, you want to look at how much money you're being charged in insertion fees. And so eBay gives you like 250 free listings in the month, and that includes eBay renewing those listings every month. So if you have 200 active listings and you list nothing new, you're going to consume 200 listings per month because eBay renews those listings each month. And if you list 50 new items, you know, anything beyond that, you're going to start being charged an insertion fee every time eBay renews, or you add a new listing over that 250 allotment. And so really what you want to do is look and see how much you're being charged in insertion fees. You know, if you're being charged in insertion fees more than it costs for a monthly subscription, well, you definitely want to get that first monthly subscription so that you're paying less money. There's also some other benefits that come with it. I think you might get a fee reduction. I think you also get a coupon to use on eBay branded boxes or whatever. But the big reason is that you're paying more in insertion fees than it would cost to actually get a store. So that's what I would look at. Retro Talon asks or says, you stopped the eBay store review page thing. Yeah, I did. I used to do eBay store reviews on the channel. Every single store review I would do was basically the exact same thing. It was low demand inventory and it was priced too high. And that's why people weren't getting as many sales as they wanted to. And so my advice just got repetitive. And so my advice is to, you know, to put it not so nicely, like stop buying junk. That's the biggest problem that I see when I review stores, is that you have low demand inventory, you're buying stuff that you probably shouldn't be buying, and that stuff that you are selling is priced too high based on the market. Not So Notorious Lab asks, are there items that you source that just didn't sell? What are your decisions that may or may not lead to purging that inventory at a certain length of time? Do you donate? Do you do garage sales? Thank you for your very helpful and informative channel. Sure. So to answer your question, yes, I definitely source items that don't sell. I'm human, even though I've been doing this for 25 plus years, I make mistakes all the time. I source things that are worth less than I thought they were going to be, or maybe it's a day where I haven't found a whole lot of stuff, and so I've just lowered my standards and bought stuff I probably shouldn't have. Either way, it definitely happens. And you're asking what decisions may lead to purging that inventory. I usually do that a couple times a year. I have a video about this. I'll link it up top somewhere. But basically, I go through a process where I just sort of refresh in my store. And I go through and I take things that haven't sold. I usually just donate them. I don't do garage sales, typically because I want to go to garage sales. I'm going to make more money if I'm going to garage sales than if I'm hosting a garage sale. So I just donate it. I write it off. Robert Lynn asks, at what point do you decide to take the L with non-moving merchandise? Do you find it hard to do so? I always feel some sense of defeat when I give a piece of merchandise away. Yeah, Robert, I get it, right? It's like your mistakes are just looking at you in the face and poking fun at you for buying it in the first place. So I definitely, like I said that earlier, like I definitely purge old inventory after it hasn't sold for 6 months to a year, depending on what the item is. If it's really valuable, I don't purge it and I wait for the right buyer. But sometimes I just realize like, hey, I shouldn't have bought this in the first place. And I don't really find it hard to do. I don't know, just get rid of it. It feels nice actually to sort of clean some of that older cruft out. Rock and Rob asks, hey, Justin, thanks for everything you do. You're welcome. First, I would like to ask, are you going to continue to promote when they change their policy next year? Second, do you take down items that don't sell and rotate them in later? Do you just keep listing them and mark them down? Lastly, how long after that do you finally make those donations? So I think I've already answered the last two questions. So I'll take the first one. Are you going to continue to promote when they change their policy next year? So I'm going to do a whole video on this. I'm adjusting my promotions policy right now. In fact, I'm in the midst of testing it right now. So as soon as that testing's done, I'm going to make a video about it and share how I'm going to handle the changes to the upcoming attribution model for general promoted listings by eBay, which is in January. So look for that video soon. The Calandrum asks, where do you get your bulk buys, the good ones? I know everyone wants to keep their secrets, but it's making it nearly impossible for others to find the single major steals of deals that somehow YouTubers find and regularly everyday sellers can't. It's all about location and who you know, and that alone give you guys a bigger advantage than us little fish. So I actually just did an entire video on this topic about finding and managing and selling bulk buys. I'll link to it here. But in that video, I say, and I'll say it again, like I get my bulk buys the same way anyone else does. I just don't have an advantage. I don't have like people, because I have a YouTube channel, like reaching out to me saying like, here, take my bulk buy for extremely cheap. Like I wish it happened, but it doesn't happen. And I get them just like everyone else does. And so watch that video. I talk about exactly how I do it. Dev Cool Guy asks, hey, Justin, I really appreciate your content. Thank you. I'm stumped on this. What's a good general guideline when it comes to how much profit you put back into your business to source and how much you pocket? Thanks in advance. Yeah, Dev. So there's not a really great answer here. It really depends on you in particular. Like if you're using this money to live off of, well, you need to prioritize that. You need to pay bills. You need to buy groceries, that type of thing. Like for me, I do this part-time. And so my normal expenses throughout the days or weeks or months, I don't pay for that from reselling money. So I basically what I do is I just keep a buffer, right? I always have at least $1,000 in my business checking account that I can use for, larger bulk buys or whatever. Typically that gets higher though. Like it's probably sitting at like $5,000 or $6,000 right now. I reinvest as much as I possibly can into it. When I see a good deal, I'm going to pick it up if I know it's going to produce a good return. And you just want to have enough money on hand to be able to do that. So I just don't really think there's a good guideline. I think it depends a lot on your specific scenario. Like I said, I just keep $1,000. So if that $5,000 or $6,000 that I have in my account right now were to shrink down because I've spent it doing other things like go on vacations or whatever, I would make sure that I at least keep $1,000 in there, or I would build that buffer up again. HDF FT6TH asks, where do you get your shipping supplies from? Mainly wondering about boxes. And then for clothing, I know you said you have them all packed in those poly mailers. Where do you buy those from? You also ask, is there a certain weight size or difference in clothing item that determines whether you use a box versus a poly mailer? So I get my shipping supplies kind of all over the place, right? For boxes, usually once or twice a year, I do a big order with a local box supplier. It's just cheaper, mostly because you don't have to get it shipped to you. And so if you're in any major metropolitan areas, is probably going to have a local box supplier. So reach out to them. That's where I get the bulk of my boxes from. I reuse boxes. I feel like we have Amazon and Target and other boxes being delivered to our house on an hourly basis at this point. So those all get reused as well. I just sort of fill in the gaps with other like poly mailers or other weird size boxes or whatever. Or like I'm selling a lot of comic books right now, so I buy comic book mailers. Those I usually just buy either on Amazon or on eBay itself, including the poly mailers that I use for clothing. I actually just use clear poly bags for clothing, and then I put them in a poly bag to when they sell and to ship them. You also ask, is there a certain weight, size, or difference in clothing item that determines whether you use a box versus a poly mailer? I mean, I generally try to stuff it in a poly bag if it'll fit, and I've got some pretty large ones. Usually it's more of a price thing. Like if I sell a really high-end jacket, like worth $300, I'll probably put that in a box. Jerry asks, how do you handle postal delays? I have had numerous buyers request refunds due to shipments being delayed by several days. The post office makes you wait several days to file a claim. The package often is delivered weeks after I have refunded the buyer. I'm a small-time seller, and losing several $100s plus the merchandise is a big deal to me. The post office will not issue a refund even if the package is 3 weeks late. So yeah, I think your problem there is refunding before the package is either found or marked as non-recoverable. And at that point, you can get insurance on it. But if you're refunding when it's still in transit, like typically those, even when it's delayed, it shows up still. So what I do with the buyers, I apologize and I say, hey, I'm sorry. I wish there was more that I could do. Unfortunately, once I drop it off, it's out of my hands. I've opened up a case for you, a missing package case. I give them the ID, and I say, like, when it eventually arrives, open up a return. You're welcome to send it back, and I'll give you a refund. That's how I handle it. Fraser Fines asks, I hear a lot about sell-through rates of items when picking. What do you think your sell-through rate should be in your eBay store? 90-day orders to active listings. I mean, there's really no good metric there. Like, obviously, you want to have as many items sold as possible, right? But you could have 1 million items in your store and have a really terrible sell-through rate, but still be hitting your income goals. So I don't know, what's your income goal? And if you're not hitting it, like then you might look into buying inventory that's going to sell faster until you have a higher sell-through rate in your store. But it's more complicated than just STR. Jay Schnob asks, what is the oldest item you've ever sold? I found a 1948 American flag at a thrift store the other day. That's cool. I don't know. Let's take a look. I feel like I've sold some coins that are pretty old. I'll have to just look. Just go to my sold inventory and search coin. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. So there's a coin from the 4th century. So 350 to 400 AD. That's pretty old. I think that's probably the oldest thing I've sold. Rain asks, how do you decide whether to lot items up or send individually? I have over 300 Hot Wheel cars. Thank you. Yeah, this happens quite a bit. I'm actually going through a large collection of comic books right now, and I'm using this strategy. My dogs also just like to bark. Right as soon as I hit record on the camera, they just start going crazy. So it's really fun. Makes this whole process a lot of fun here. I'm going through a big collection of comic books right now, and I'm using a strategy that would apply perfectly to your question here with Hot Wheels in particular. And so what you want to do is figure out whether you have any sort of gems in there, things that are worth selling separately that are worth more than others. And the way you do that is just by research. And so if you have 300 Hot Wheels, you want to take a couple hours and sit down and just start going through them. Hot Wheels are definitely going to have the names of the models on the underside. Just start looking them up, checking sold comps, and then make piles, right? And probably with Hot Wheels like that, you probably only need to make 2 piles. One pile is these are worth enough to make sense to sell individually, and another pile is like I'm just going to lot these together and sell them as a collection to someone instead of individually. And so you just want to pick your threshold, and if you, I don't know, $20, if anything is greater than $20, put it in one pile, and all that stuff gets listed individually. Anything less than that just gets lotted up into a collection. BKB asks, why do you log cash sales in Flipwise? Anything with cash, I don't log and use personal and business bank accounts to transfer whatever I need. So it balances out come tax season. That doesn't sound tax compliant. I'm not an expert, but I noticed you've been logging the heaters on Marketplace. How come? It's because I play by the books. I get it. I could not be reporting that as income, but I don't know. Like, that's just who I am. I want to play by the books. If I'm like selling randomly on Facebook Marketplace things that I bought long ago and I'm probably selling at a loss, like I'm not going to go to the trouble of reporting that to the IRS and telling them that I sold in a loss. Like that doesn't make sense. But I'm pushing tens of thousands of dollars through my Facebook account it's a business, and I treat it like one, and I do everything I can to reduce my tax liability, but I'm still going to play by the rules. I'm gonna be within the law, and that's just how I do it. I don't know. I don't want to run a business where I'm not doing it that way. So I don't know, but you can do whatever you want. R Grebe asks, what profit margin should I aim for in my reselling business? I started out with 2x, then increased my goal to 6x, and now I'm wondering if I should aim for 10x. So it sounds like, maybe you don't mean profit margin, but return on investment. That's usually how return on investment is measured in like 10x. Net profit margin is really like how much money you take home from a sale. And so, if you have 50% profit margins for every dollar you sell, you take home 50 cents. And so it sounds like you're talking about ROI though, and there's really not a great ROI to shoot for. It totally depends, because you could get a 2x ROI could be great if the sale price is $1,000 at 50% margins, and you only invested half of that. You're making a lot of money on that. But for low value items, you maybe need the ROI to be higher for it to make more sense, because it may not be worth your time to make $4 on the sale, for example, even if you only got it for 50 cents, So ROI is not a good metric on its own. Sammy asks, hi, Justin, I'm having a lot of package delays for shipped orders with USPS. Of course, I know it's peak season and to be expected, but I'm a fairly new seller and wondering how this year compares to previous years, at least in your experience. So knock on wood, Sammy, I think this year's been better for me. Last year or 2 years ago, or even during COVID, it was just a total nightmare with delays. This year, knock on wood, I'm doing okay. I really haven't had any problems yet. Of course, I'm going to get a message here in 35 seconds about a shipping delay problem, but so far so good. But it's typical for this time of year. Usually there's just more challenges. There's more volume going through the post office this time of year, and so there's going to be more problems. So Natalie asks, my question is, how do you go about deciding how to set up your shipping policies? I know you've talked about setting flat rate shipping policies for your store, but I don't think I ever heard you explain how you decide on the flat rate pricing itself. So Natalie, that's a good question. I wish I had like a scientific answer for you. I think I just over time understood roughly what it costs to ship something and then built policies around that rough value. It's certainly not scientific. It's definitely more of a gut feeling. I have like a $6.99 policy, a $9.99 policy, $14.99, $24.99. Those are my main policies. I have some other ones scattered around in between, but usually everything goes into one of those 4 or 5 policies. And I don't know. It works for me. It really depends on where you live, and it's going to depend on how much it costs to ship something somewhere. So don't use my policies just without checking on your own. But I had no scientific process. I think it's just over many years of doing this, it feels right. Sometimes I lose some money on shipping. Sometimes I get some extra money on shipping. So I think it all evens out in the end. Debbie asks, how do you calculate gross margin on your product sales? Do you use net sales price, gross sales minus less any coupons or sales, or total collected net sales minus shipping? So I definitely use total collected. Gross sales is what the item sold for, including what the buyer paid in shipping. And then to get your net from that, you subtract all of your expenses, including your cost to ship. So that's the best way to do it. Mishmash Maven asks, how to improve click-through rate? My photos and titles are pretty good. I wonder if I'm high-priced overall. If high-priced, what's the most efficient way to resolve? I think the best way to answer this, Mishmash Maven, is, click-through rate is an indicator of demand, right? So everything that you sell on eBay or try to sell on eBay has a level of demand, a number of people that are actively out there looking for that item. If your click-through rate is low, that typically means what you're selling has low demand. It's getting low impressions. Now, if your impressions are high, but for some reason your click-through rate is low, that could indicate something like photos or titles. That's usually not what people are asking about when they ask this question. Really, the answer is just you're probably selling lower demand inventory that's just not getting a lot of interest. They're not getting a lot of impressions and or not getting a lot of clicks, and then also not getting a lot of sales. Pricing, it can also impact click-through. If you're really high priced, that might just signal to a potential buyer that I'm not even interested in looking at the listing because it's so high. And what's the most efficient way to resolve is to lower your price, do market research and see what the items should be priced at and price it at that instead. But really, my guess is that your inventory is just relatively low demand, and no amount of futzing with the price or the title is going to, bring new demand. It's it's what you're selling. That's usually what it is. Victoria asks, where do you source in the winter when yard sales are scarce? So usually in the winter, I switch from garage sales. I start doing more thrift stores, more estate sales, more bulk buys, that type of thing. And then in the spring rolls around, then I sort of switch back to doing garage sales. But I still also do thrift stores and estate sales and bulk buys throughout the year. I just do more garage sales during that time of year. Red Channel asks, are your latest thumbnails AI generated? Yeah, they are. I've been toying with AI a lot lately. If you look at like my channel, historically, I'm just really lazy when it comes to thumbnails, and I use the exact same photo of myself over and over again. But more recently, I just started to get a little bit more creative with it and utilize various AI tools that's still me. Usually the settings that I put myself in are AI generated. Like, for example, in this video, I'm not actually going to travel all the way out to eBay headquarters, but I wanted to make it look like I was standing in front of eBay headquarters. But yeah, those are AI generated backgrounds. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Let me know. There's like people doing leaf blowing. It's like right when I hit record, my dogs usually start going crazy, or people just start leaf blowing right outside of my window. So if you can hear that, my apologies. I'm going to keep rolling though. Lucyuana asks, if you were gifted 10 pallets of returns and overstock from an employer, how would you go about sorting and selling it? It's mainly household and kitchen goods. This is my new situation after the warehouse I worked for over a decade shut down. My old boss has given some inventory to try to help me out. I get to store it at the same warehouse for the time being for free until my old boss rents out the warehouse, which could be any time. So, that's an interesting scenario. It sounds like you could be getting a little bit in over your head. 10 pallets of returns and overstock, that's a lot of inventory, right? And it's nice that you have some place to store it now. But, what are you going to do with that if you get kicked out? Or when something sells, are you going to be driving back and forth between your house and the warehouse every single time? That's not going to be very efficient. So I think there's like a lot of challenges with this setup in particular. But, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to go through and sort and do the research to understand the demand and the value and to organize it all and to sell it all. And if it's going to be in a place where the storage is temporary or far from where you're at, that could be challenging. And so if I think you said you live somewhere, where do you say that you live? Yeah, a 2-bedroom apartment, and it's already swamped with inventory, like that could be tough. Like, hopefully you don't get kicked out of that warehouse soon. So I don't know. I would try to get it listed as quickly as you possibly can, because it's not going to sell if it's not listed. And you need to sell that stuff quickly because you have a temporary storage location. And that's a tough situation. Mimi's Treasures asks, have you ever had to cancel a sale when it's your fault, like out of stock damaged or shipping cost incorrectly estimated? How do you approach it with the customer? Do you offer them a choice of something else in your store as an alternative? How to avoid the dreaded defect? Thanks so much. Yeah, I definitely do this. I've definitely had to cancel because I've been out of stock or because I'm going to ship it and I drop it and damage it. Never for shipping cost incorrectly estimated, but that would not be a good reason to cancel. You should just eat your mistakes on that one unless you're losing like hundreds of dollars. Anyway, to approach it with the customer, if you don't, there's 2 reasons you can cancel an order and not get a defect on eBay. That's if there's a problem with the provided address from the buyer, or the buyer asks you to cancel. And so some people, if they find out that something's out of stock, what they'll do is offer something else with the customer and say, hey, would you like this instead? If not, I will cancel the sale, and use that as a reason to select that the buyer requested the cancellation. So you can do that. It's kind of a gray area. I've done it before, especially if it's like I'm selling like a blue Yeti mug and I can't find it, but I have a green one. I'm like, hey, you cool with a green one? If it's like, hey, you bought this Yeti mug, I can't find it. Do you want like a sweater instead? Like, that wouldn't make much sense. So it just depends on the situation. But eBay tracks this stuff. They'll show you how many defects you have and whether you're in danger of losing your status or anything like that. So you can do it a couple times. Just don't make it a habit. Merlin asks, have you noticed that listings are now taking several minutes to go live? Has me wondering if eBay is having their AI scan and track the data before they get listed. Haven't noticed that. All listings are going live just as quickly as they have in the past. So it might be something else going on, but I haven't noticed that. Valerie says, I sell movies on eBay. Recently sold a TV series. Buyer states fake copy, even though it's genuine. They're returning it. I believe they bought it, watched it, now returning at my expense. I accept returns if the item is still sealed and at a buyer's expense. If I receive the item back, can I refund a lesser amount? Yeah, that's definitely a policy that eBay has. If you're a top-rated seller or you offer free returns, I think you can refund up to only 50% if the item is returned in a condition than what it was sent in. And so in this case, you sold a brand new DVD or whatever, and they send back an open DVD, you can only refund 50%. So There you go. Dennis asks, what was the moment that made you realize reselling was an option? For me, I walked into a random estate sale down the street that just happened to have things I wanted and they were super cheap. I have some debts I needed to clear out and it just kind of clicked then. I remember in high school, the first thing that I sold was like a piece of telecommunications equipment that I got for free that I turned around and sold for enough to be able to like to pay for a significant chunk of my first car. And that was like the first light bulb moment for me. I was like, well, if I could keep finding things like this, I could probably make some decent money. That was like in the late 90s. And it wasn't really until about 2014 or 15, I was living in the Washington, D.C. area, in the Northern Virginia area. And I had very young kids at the time. And so I was getting up at like 5 a.m. And so we would go to garage sales on Fridays and Saturdays. And in that area, that Northern Virginia area, there was a good combination of people that were both wealthy and transient, doing a lot of moving. And so the garage sales there were just incredible. And so that's when I started to actually turn this into something that was making tens of thousands of dollars a year, doing it part-time. Was around 2015 and 16. Once I just happened to be in an area where there's just really great inventory. And so that's really how I got started in doing it in a more professional way. Brasau Gaming asks, what category do you most enjoy selling? For me, it's Lego minifigs. Lego minifigs are fun. I don't know that I have like a perfect category. I really like buying and selling coffee mugs, but it's a terrible category to sell in. Like you just don't make a whole lot of money. It's not a good category to sell in, but I personally like doing it. Other than that, it's like, the things that I like to sell are the things that require small amounts of time to list. And so that's why clothing, I do like buying and selling clothing, but they take longer to list. But like new in box electronics that don't take a whole lot of time to list, I like that a lot. TX Gambler asks, what's up with wearing long sleeves year round in your videos, even during the summer? I've been watching for years and never see you in short sleeves. It's just an observation. That's because I'm in my basement. This is my basement right here. And it's like a cool 65 degrees year round. So even in the summer, I'm wearing long sleeves like this, but there are a few videos out there with me in short sleeves. So Tommy Boy asked, you've mentioned many times that eBay is part-time for you. What do you do full-time? So for the last 20 or 25 years, I've worked in tech, in building things on the internet for people, mostly in media and publishing. That's where my career has been historically. About 2 years ago, though, I was able to quit my job and focus exclusively on Flipwise. That's really my full-time job right now is Flipwise, which is the eBay automation platform that I run. I made a video about quitting my job about 2 years ago. So yeah, all my income is now self-employed, coming from that or coming from eBay. I spend about 10 to 15 hours a week on eBay. I spend a lot of time on YouTube, and then majority of my time is spent on running my business, Flipwise, and supporting our users there and building out that platform, making iterations to the platform. That makes up the bulk of the hours that I spend doing work. The Dog Mom asks, thanks for being the direct, dry reseller guy who shows reselling as it is. You're welcome. Lights Out is brilliant. Did the power just go out one day and you thought, meh, just roll with it? I don't know where this came from. If y'all don't know what the Dog Mom is talking about here, at the end of my videos, I typically just like kill the video stream and I'm just talking audio only. And I really don't know how that started. I think I might have just done it once, randomly. And then the next video, people were like, hey, where's the lights out portion? And so I just started doing it every single time. I don't know. It's a way to just get maybe a little bit more intimate and talk about things that maybe not everyone's interested in, a little bit more personal. And I don't know. Lights out. I don't know why I did lights out. So, all right, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.